Does your VA disability screw up term life insurance? Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and recently I did this whole video on the survivor benefit program. And one of the key things that comes out of that whole conversation is that for some people, it's possible to get a higher amount of coverage for a lower cost by going with like commercial term life insurance instead of the survivor benefit program. The question is, does that apply to you? I mean, what about your military medical records? What about your VA disability claim? How is that going to affect commercial term life insurance? Well, the other day I sat down with a friend of mine who's a financial professional, and she walked me through some of the considerations that any transitioning service member should think about, including some that I was completely unaware of. And just to give you a glance ahead, the news is good. In fact, if you take a few simple steps, the news can be even better for you. All right, the first one caught me totally by surprise, and she recommended that you talk one-on-one with a financial professional in order to get your quote. That is, do not go online. Don't just punch in some information, because if you do, what ends up happening is you deal with an automated system or somebody at a call center. And you want to talk to a financial professional for at least two reasons. Number one, most financial professionals have access at their fingertips to pricing models. These are the models that will ultimately determine the cost of your insurance. So by talking one-on-one with a professional, you get a much more reliable quote. They know what information the models are asking for. They can clarify any confusion, and it all avoids hang-ups later in the process. The other reason that you want to talk one-on-one with this professional is because there are two types of financial professionals who sell commercial life insurance: captive and non-captive. Captive insurance agent can only sell policies from one company, while a non-captive agent can sell policies from a whole range of different insurance companies. That matters to you because, of course, you want to get the best policy for your specific situation. Finding that best policy, well, it's a lot easier when you're dealing with somebody who knows the whole scope of different policies and where to go looking for the one that suits your specific situation. All right. There might be a third reason to deal with a real live human being. If your situation is complicated, and I mean really complicated, they also have access to the people who write the policies, the underwriters. Agent can call them up and get straight answers to nuanced questions that are unique to your situation, and you end up with a more reliable policy quote that you can make your decisions on. The next important point that came up is one that I think we all know, but most of us don't really act on it appropriately. It is best for military service members to purchase commercial life insurance before they retire. And granted, the cynic might say, well, of course your insurance selling friend wants people to buy policies earlier, but there are a couple practical reasons to consider here. The first is just that it is easier to get affordable insurance when you are young. The older you get, the more difficult and expensive it becomes. And that is all because a term life insurance policy requires a medical exam. Your body is racking up a score, and rarely are your medical conditions getting better over time. The second reason that it helps to get an insurance policy early is so that you become a more informed consumer. By purchasing insurance, you think about it, you learn about it, you become more familiar with it. You don't end up a 58-year-old retiree with some pretty serious medical conditions who's trying to make the decision of whether or not to opt in to the survivor benefit program. You want another reason? Well, you might be thinking, well, I got SGLI. why would I bother getting more life insurance until after I'm out of the service? Did you ever stop to wonder if SGLI is actually adequate coverage for you and your family? I mean, the government automatically provides the same level of life insurance to all service members, regardless of their family situation. $500,000 of life insurance might be a lot of life insurance for a single person with no kids. But somebody who's got a spouse, 5 kids? Oh, no. And never mind inflation. I mean, is $500,000 going to be enough to get your family through the years? I don't know. And I'll guarantee that the government official who picked that number, they don't know either. So even though you have SGLI while you're on active duty, you might not have enough coverage. All right. One last thing before I get off this point about it's a good idea to buy life insurance before you retire, even if SGLI is the right answer for you. If you have a spouse, you're probably going to need insurance on them. So when you're buying life insurance for your spouse, get a little life insurance for yourself, and you'll see why in a second. Now, even if you don't get life insurance early in your career, I don't know, say in your 30s, you still want to talk to a financial advisor before you talk to a veteran service officer. When I have this conversation before you submit your VA disability packet. In a second, I'm going to talk about the top 10 service-connected disabilities and the effect they may have on term life insurance. That'll give you a glimpse into what effect these disabilities can have on your life insurance policy. But first, let's look at the process that insurance companies use to deal with their customers. Each individual company has something called rating standards. And this has nothing to do with your VA disability rating. I mean, they're similar words, but entirely different meanings. These insurance agency rating standards are used to categorize people based on their health and their lifestyle. Important basics are height, weight, do you drink, do you smoke, and of course, major medical conditions. These rating standards determine both the amount of coverage that you can qualify for as well as how much that's going to cost. As you can imagine, these standards cover the spectrum from so healthy that their only risk in life is an accident, all the way to this guy is in such bad condition that we are not going to cover him. So a big question is, if I have a term life insurance policy before I get my VA disability rating, what happens to the life insurance? Bottom line, nothing. If a condition is discovered after you are insured, your rates do not go up. Well, that's true as long as you don't go back to the insurance company and try to renegotiate your rates, but really the only reason people do that is because something has improved in their medical condition that they think they will get a better policy. I don't know, maybe you quit smoking. All right, so what happens when your term life insurance policy comes to an end? Let's say you got a 20-year policy when you were 30 years old, you retired at 48, but now you're 50 and that policy is coming to an end. Is your VA claim going to be a problem? Not necessarily. Term life insurance contracts often have a clause where the insured can extend their policy without going through another medical examination. This is called a convertible insurance policy. And the important thing for those of us in the military is that this aspect of a contract is sometimes written into the original policy. So not only do you want to consider buying term life insurance before you leave the military, you want to make sure that there's a convertible clause in the contract. All right, the next thing I want to discuss is the impact of VA ratings on the cost of your term life insurance. To do that, I'm going to share this list of the top 10 service-connected disabilities of new applicants. The first thing to notice about this list is that there are some common disabilities like tinnitus and hearing loss and knee flexation that don't really have any impact on the length of your life. And that means they're unlikely to make any difference on your insurance policy. Now, disabilities like post-traumatic stress and major depression, those can affect your policy. However, what really matters is the severity of your condition and what kind of medical treatment you're getting for it. So, for many service members, their VA disabilities are not going to be a major barrier to getting affordable term life insurance. Now, I say that, but we kind of have to come back to the question of what kind of insurance agent are you looking for? Sure, it's good to talk to a live person, and it's best if they're non-captive. But in particular, you want a person who is familiar with the military. You want somebody who understands the nuances of the different ways that different insurance companies look at service-connected disabilities. I mean, you want to deal with somebody who understands what a VA disability really is. If a transitioning service member is dealing with an insurance agent who doesn't understand the lingo and the jargon of the military and the VA, they can accidentally assume that service-connected disabilities are much more severe than they really are. All right, but so what? Well, I think most of this is good news. I mean, it's a good idea if you go talk to a financial professional and learn about life insurance before you make your military transition. But if you don't, you're not totally out of luck. Oh, and there are a couple of points that I cut out of this video just for the sake of brevity that you might want to learn a little bit about. Those include life benefits, whole life insurance, and fixed income annuities. Each of these can help you structure your estate planning in a way that benefits your family without being too expensive. And now, if you're interested in learning about all the different benefit programs that are available to transitioning service members, watch this video.